Yeah, so like I daydream a lot. Like I'll just sort of like be laying in bed and like sometimes a YouTube video will be on. And I'll just sort of like have my head under the covers and just sort of like drift away in thought. Mostly I just think about where I want to be in a few years. And just see the thing about me is that like I'm annoyingly like naively optimistic. Like I remember one time I ordered pizza. I think I was maybe like 15 years old at the time. And I just sat by the window probably for like 2 hours, just like staring at the street, like a cat, just waiting for like the pizza guy car to show up. And like a normal person probably would have like called the pizza place after like an hour after the guy didn't show up. But I'm just like I'm still sitting there, like like he's probably just like right around the corner or something. It'll be fine. He'll be here soon. Yeah, he never showed up. Yeah, but during these like daydreams about the future, like it's like I've become like so sort of like good at visualizing that like I completely lose track of reality sometimes. And sometimes for like years at a time. Like I'll find myself daydreaming and I'll be like, wait a second, 5 years have passed and I'm still just like laying in bed. I've always sort of likened this feeling to like sleep paralysis. Like at some point you sort of like realize that you're laying in bed but you can't move, and then you sort of like panic and there's this like oh if I could just like move my tongue a little. And then sometimes you have like false awakenings, where you sort of like you think you woke up but you're actually still just dreaming. That's sort of how it is with like these fantasies. Like I'll sort of like lose myself in the daydream again, like thinking that I've made some sort of like progress, but I'm actually just sort of like laying in bed still without realizing that I like fell back into the daydream. Oh, and I'm not talking about like self-improvement or anything, because I actually kind of like working on myself, like like making better YouTube videos and like practicing speaking or like making my body better. Like that's a whole other like completely unrelated thing to me. But it's something else that I'm talking about here. Like it's more like I'm just sort of like alone. And like I don't know what happened. Like I remember when I was like 22. And I mean, at that point, like I was basically like a loner in my room all the time, like like playing Twilight Princess. But like I would still sort of like occasionally interact with people online. And I mean, I never interacted with them like outside of AIM or like MySpace, of course. Like I kept it all at like a safe distance. Like I think if I had my way, like I would just operate out of like an underground bunker or something. But I was still sort of like connected to other people in like more than just like a shallow way. And like I even met like a few like girls that I talked to, and I would sort of like go on Omegle and stuff. But like after the age of like 24 or 25, like I just stopped doing that for some reason. And like the idea of socializing like in any form, like I started to kind of feel like dumb doing it. Like I almost feel like I grew out of it or something. It's kind of like how like when you're a kid and like the idea of like running around like naked in the house is kind of like fun. But then like at a certain point you think like this feels a little weird. Like you sort of become self-conscious, and you sort of like feel stupid doing it. And that's kind of what I feel like happened with me. Like some kind of like fundamental shift happened. And like I'm in just sort of like this place where like, I feel dumb trying to like make friends, like online or otherwise, because it just feels like I'm too old to be doing it or something. And I think it's also sort of like just everything feels like it's become like so boring. Like I could win the lottery and like buy a mansion, but I feel like that might be fun for like a week. And then like, I would get used to it and, I'd end up like utilizing like only one or two of the rooms and like, the rest of the mansion would go like completely to waste. Like I'd end up living like exactly the same life that I live now, like, just watching YouTube all the time, except now I'm just like occasionally walking down like super long, lonely hallways. Like, I'm just not excited at all by the idea. And maybe most people that end up in mansions or like win the lottery sort of like end up in a situation like that. But I just kind of miss the days where I didn't know enough to like not get excited by that sort of idea. Like the only thing that like sounds fun to me at all is just like, plugging into some like full immersion virtual reality video game, or like, like becoming a rock star and like going on a world tour, or, maybe even like plugging into a VR simulation of a lifetime where I become like a rock star or like a YouTube star, or just something like exciting and like filled with adventure. But like other than that, like nothing gets me excited. Like not even going to an NFL game. And like I'm a huge Eagles fan. Like I went to the Eagles-Texans game back in 2018. by myself, of course. And like I paid like $300 for this seat that was like 11 rows from the field. Like I could see the sweat on Nick Foles' face. And I guess it was kind of cool, but it was just so like fleeting, and I was left mostly with just like a feeling of heartbreak, even though they won, because I just wish that I could like stay there and like live at the stadium or something. Like, when everyone left, I could like, go onto the field and like toss a football around by myself. Or, like maybe there's a bedroom somewhere in here with like a view of the field. So I can just sort of like watch games from my bed while I'm like living here at the stadium. Like, I don't want to just go to Six Flags. I want to like live at Six Flags. Like, I want to like ride the rides at like 3 a.m. by myself. Like, I want reality to sort of like feel like a lucid dream or something. Like that's sort of the only thing that I would like find exciting. And so it's like all I do now is just like I just like lay in bed and like do Uber Eats. And I just like I never do anything exciting. And it feels like I got lost in a daydream or something, And just like, I feel like I'm probably like never going to make it out again. Like, I'm just going to keep getting older and older, and the situation is going to keep getting more like desperate, And I'm probably like never going to go to Six Flags again. And I'm probably like never going to have friends or like a girlfriend or like go on a road trip. And I'm probably like never going to experience love. And I'm going to be like 50 and like I'll only have like these little small sort of like dumb moments to be nostalgic about. Like, like eating a bowl of Honey Bunches of Oats with almonds on like the first cold day of the year, and just sort of like the smell of the breeze coming in the window. And like making this YouTube video isn't going to like perform reverse psychology on the universe and like make all of my dreams come true, please. But yeah, like I never like played MMOs, but I can definitely see the appeal of them, like an escape, because like I kind of feel like I have some sort of like subconscious mental blocks that make me feel like I'm like not allowed to like participate in reality. And so I sort of resign myself to like escapism. Like, my version of an MMO is just sort of like a fantasy reality where I can just like be whatever I want to be. That's sort of like the only thing that I feel like I'm allowed to do, Like I understand why people play MMOs 24/7. Like, if they're anything like me, they feel like they're not allowed to like participate in reality. Maybe because of some sort of like past trauma or something, and the fantasy world is all they feel they have. It's all I feel like I'm allowed to have. But even being aware of the fact that that's like probably not true. Like I'm sure I'm allowed to have friends, and like I'm allowed to have a girlfriend or whatever. Like I really just don't see myself like ever pushing through that. Like I kind of have this like sneaking suspicion that I'm here forever.